Hi, this is Duchess Robinson, and today I want to talk about in this podcast what does success look like to you, and specifically as an entrepreneur. So, you'll hear all kinds of stories on how people have built themselves to be successful in their trade, successful in how their approach, where they're positioned now. So specifically, the ideal generic goal of what is success? Is success being making a ton of money, having a great house, and having a very good car, things of that sort when you're working for yourself? Because ultimately, the reason why you're working for yourself is to obtain a level of financial security and being pronounced this influencer and all of those things. So, but ideally, as a business person, all of those things are a part of the generic goal. That is the ultimate goal for anybody that's starting a business and doing a business of their own. However, I want to talk about individual things that are not talked about. And I want to talk about goal leechers, or if you ideally talking about people, vision grabbers, or people who will try to take what you do and incorporate it in what they do to ultimately make them successful. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And that is something, as a business person, that you really have to pay attention to, and not find and not really fall into that type of business. How, I don't even really know how to put it, but just some real stuff. I'm not going to have all the technical or things. I'm just going to talk about specifically experiences that I have and some of the wording that I have to say to people. And I'll probably throw out a couple of things and add in certain things. So, starting out in my line of business in the early 2000, mid 2000s, and having to jump into this industry due to the death of my mother, I had to find other things to do other than work for someone else. Like, it was just never a fit for me at all. And it was just completely different dynamics for me to work in an industry that's just completely different from how I think and how I feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just understanding what you have to do. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do in order to live and to pay bills and things like that. So I was tremendously blessed with the opportunity to have that time to really deal with the ups and downs of starting a business and doing a business and all of that stuff, and some security behind it. So I dealt with a lot of failures. I dealt with a lot of success. I've dealt with people undermining and not listening. I've dealt with having to show myself. So let me talk about quickly the present state that I'm in. The present state that I am in as a business person, I've looked over a lot of clients, some good, some bad, some whatever. And I realized that their There were some things that I could have done better, differently, and just avoid it altogether. Where I am now is comfortably evolving my business. What do I mean evolving my business? From where I started, there should always be an evolvement of what you do and how you do it, and continuously changing and growing and doing those things. So what really tend to happen is that you find yourself at a different level. Now, what does that mean? It's okay to not have to deal with certain things as a business person. As a woman of color, it's okay to just say no to everybody. Where I am now is making a considerable amount of money, much more than I did when I started, and in the middle, and towards the start of me evolving the business. Because to me, that was more successful to me to really understand what was the purpose and what direction I wanted to go. So I can sit and get these things done. That is my present time. There were some shaky times that, not having someone to look to help and to do, and for what I am doing, because it was not rare, but it wasn't easily found someone else doing, the whole internet marketing, graphic design. It was pretty interesting. So you have people who really don't know trying to give you advice, and it just did not work for me. That was not the goal. And people saying, well, you should do like this person, but that wasn't my goal. So if you're sitting there and you're in the middle, or you've spent some time in your business and you're trying to really figure out what you really want to do and how you want to do it, this is the podcast for you to listen to, because I want to show you how not to fall into some of those things that I've done. One, I read a friend of mine's Facebook post, and she was talking about how she's a musician, and he needed someone to perform at an event, and she quoted him a price of about $800. And he said, well, that's too much. Is there anything else I can do? Well, I can do. She was giving him a scenario of what he could do. But it's evident that you have to understand the value of yourself. That's number one. It's hard to really understand that value when you have a bill due and you needed that client. I'm going to tell you this. God will always make a way. That is first and foremost. That is, as a business person, you have to be deeply rooted in faith. And if you're not a person of faith, whatever, this podcast is probably not for you. I've learned that what I say is not for everybody. It can't be. Everybody is different. But for those who are rooted in some faith and everything else like that, because I'm going to tell you some stuff that's going to really shock you, and that you do have to have the full armor of God around you when you're dealing with certain things. And one of the main things that I've realized, when she was talking to someone, I made the quote, when I see people say stuff like that, it's a waste of time even dealing with them. Because people will always try to pull your price down. They understand the value of it, but they don't want to pay the value of it. And usually when you deal with somebody like that, it's more pain than anything. It's like they want $1 million performance and only have $1 budget or no budget at all. Those are the people to stay away from in business. Truly and considerably, and you feel as a business person you're trying to give this person a chance, what you have, you're trying to prove yourself. I'm telling you, the best way to prove yourself is to keep and stand firm on what you have, and just completely just dismiss that. Because I'm going to tell you, my grandmother used to say, a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. Another one said, if you bend over and give your prices, they'll kick you right into you know what. And that's absolutely true. When people feel that they can maneuver and try to get with you or have a conversation and try to lower that price, that's not a good thing. One thing I would have told her, never be the person that talks about pricing with, if you're the person doing it, you probably need somebody else to talk prices with them. I really I've done it for so many years, and it has not worked out the way. Because you talk to people, you hear their stories, you want to give them a break, you want to give them the best, and you want them to grow, especially if they're, in the same culture you are, and you want to see them. You got to stand firm on who you are, what your value is, because it's a mess in the long run. And I've learned over the years, not only me giving myself and what I do at a lower price to someone, it became just, catastrophic. I don't like that you're doing it. They felt like their amount of money was worth them renting me for forever. I even had a point where I think it was like 9 o'clock in the evening, and I decided to go on Facebook, and I literally had a client that didn't pay as much as anybody else. Well, shouldn't you be working on my project instead of being on social media? This was the inbox. I've learned over the years to really strictly tell people, this is my time, or just don't pick up your phone at a certain time. They'll get the message, they'll get the hint. Everybody else needs a break, deal with their family, eat dinner. I'm not talking to you. This is my day off. I don't care. You really have to put those, you have to put that in place. You really have to put those things in place, and almost like 6 feet. You really have to because if you don't, people will take advantage of them. You give them an inch, they take a yard. So that was one thing. The second thing, there will be people, because you do not do what they do at a certain amount of money and a certain amount of things, and because they know you, I've had a person say that my business would not. I had 2 people say that. 2 people. That my business. I'm gonna tell you the first one. And I can't. I'm not even going to speak the person's name. I don't do that. That's not anything that I do. It was a man that reached out to me to help him do a project. And he said, well, you do this project, this is what is going to come. You'll probably get this money for it and whatever else like that. So I said, okay, that's fine. I had no problem with it, and you do business and blah, blah, blah. So I did the project. And then I seen one of the logos that I created, and it was in a t-shirt. And I was like, well, damn, I couldn't get a t-shirt? And someone I was talking to confronted the person like, yo, what's going on? I don't hear anything going on. They didn't get paid. They didn't do anything. And the man had the nerve to say, well, the way you're talking, she will never do business in this city again. And you have to learn that when people say that, you can't really get upset. That means they know you. They've done you in, number one. And 2, they're hoping, because they don't want to be the bad person in that. So I've dealt with that type of things, and of course I've literally stopped doing business and moved to another city, not physically move, but started doing and expanding because the area was limited, and did some things still in the same place. Couldn't interrupt that at all. Like, nobody has the power over your ability because of your ability. It's God given. It's nobody. It's nobody that can do that. And then I had another person whom disagreed and had a conversation with someone else, said that my business would never prosper. It was over. I say again, that person to me was jealous of the ability and could not surpass the ability because I would not deal with the shadiness. And so you have to disengage for people who have that. I mean, it's hard, but you have to disengage from what people say about you as a business person and about your ability. Again, if God given it to me, they definitely can't take it away. And what they saw was, well, they're not doing the right things. There's a way that you say things to people and how you say it. But at the same time, again, I'm prospering. That means what you had to say was a mute point. And that person really needed to really pay attention to what they're doing. I'm still moving on. I'm really at a great point. So the next thing as a business person, and this is the most, well, actually I wind up pushing it to 4 because I just thought of something else. So the first thing that we talked about as a business person is really not doing business with people who don't value you. 2, not dealing with people having the full armor of God and faith, because people will say things to you when they don't get their way. Now, the third thing that I really want to talk about is people that involve you in their vision. What do I mean by that? I'm an independent business owner. I do things for business to business base. And what happens, because you can have a great business relationship, you network, you're doing projects for this person, but that's not what I'm talking about. And some people may feel this way. When a person is, oh, I'm so scared, I don't know how to do this stuff, I'm building this, they will try to engage you. Well, if you do this, or if you can work, it becomes no longer you're a business. It becomes I tell you what to do, and you do what I tell you to do, and the money is not there. And that's the scary thing when you're dealing with people, because they begin to try to incorporate you like you work for them. Like, one of the most annoying things I hate, if I'm in a business model, I'm doing a website, I'm doing all of this stuff, I don't need to be at all your meetings. I just need to be in a certain part where we talk about certain things, and more than likely I've already discussed what I needed to discuss with you, and you needed to get it together with your people. But I find people feel like, oh, well, you know how to do all of this stuff, we don't know how to do that stuff, and could you do this, and could you do that, and it becomes, you make me add, how can I put it? So people, it's not hard to explain, but I just want you to feel the emotion of it. And one of the emotional things about it is, it feels like you were sent to make my vision grow. You were sent, your skill set is just what I need to make my vision grow. Not listening to what you have to do. I've done what I had to do for that person, and they feel like, well, what I need you to do, and I need you to be around, and I need you to be, it becomes, you have to understand, okay, if you need me Let me know. I'll send you an invoice. You have to stay on that line. They will try to befriend you. Have you come sit down because they want to take what you have and incorporate it with what they have to make themselves better. And your vision for your business becomes non-existent for them. It is about how you fit in their plan for their vision. And I just want you to be. I've heard it. We should collaborate. And I can do this for you if you. I have a business model. I had a man one time try to incorporate me in his business, and I said no. And he literally tried to harass me and bully me into being a part of his business, and even tried to say, well, I can get you better clients. Better clients? You barely got them. You using me to get the clients. I dealt with that in a situation where, and this is where I really understood where I was, the value. And it came out of a weird situation. It was another business owner. We were friends, conversation, but she was building her brand off of what I've done and played both sides of it, telling one side, oh, she didn't do this, she didn't do that, that's why this is not done. Meanwhile, she was basically just scamming people out of money and telling me a different story, but she would get people angry with me to keep them from communicating with me and everything be focused on what she needed. That was demonic. Like I said, you have to put the full armor of God on you. And when I realized that and I released myself from that, of course, God blessed me with so much. I mean, just conversation. And I'm very careful, more so now, who I befriend on a level of business, more so now. Again, failures and building up. These are just some really rough things out of there. So you have to be really confident in what you're doing. You really have to put it in place, and you have to really understand how to just be covered in this stuff. Understand that God will give you position, and favor doesn't come from that person or that. It comes from God, and just having an opportunity to do the things that you do, you have to realize and not get yourself pulled in to some of these business deadening situations, the attacks or whatever else. And remember, I talked about the fourth thing, and I should have said the four things. I've learned, and I've talked to people, and I've given people all kinds of free information on how to build their brand or how to grow their social media or how to do all of these things. And I've noticed that it is a situation where I'm not going to quite listen to her. I'm going to do what I want to do or what I think, or I'm going to ask somebody, or I'm going to look over here and I'm going to get the information from there, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And what I realized at some point, and it should have been in the beginning, sometimes you just have to stop and do things on your own. What I realized that I needed to do at that time, at that point, I became my own client. And I can really see what I needed. I literally, and this is something as a business person I would implore you to do. Think of yourself as your own client. And then begin to write a letter to yourself. And I've written letters to myself, how I needed to expand my brand, how to expand my business, how to have the goals and set. how I wanted to be successful and in this business, because my level of success is different from yours and another person. So what really truly wind up happening, I started to build and become my own. I became my own client, and I began to see. I began to see that some of the things that I was telling people, some of the things, stop it. Some of the, you gonna shut up? Some of the things that I began seeing, that some of the information that I gave to other business owners, they just didn't follow through, or they didn't want to do it at all to move where they needed to move. They had too many people in their ear, and that became really interesting, because I look at where I've grown doing, me following my own leadership in the business versus that gives you an idea if you're doing what's right for your clients, and then understanding sometimes your strategy, your style, your things may not fit for another person. And I've been the type of person that if I'm not the one for you, I'm not going to continue. I'm going to say, go out and find and get someone else to do it for you. If you look at that and their strategy and their whatever, I mean, there's conversations other way, and people will have those things. But when you ultimately feel that the way you approach things and it's not working, and they're not listening, and they're not doing certain things, and your point of view is not going to go into a design, then move from it. That's from anything, because what it does, it declines you as a person of influence in this business, and you don't really see yourself in that business. So at this point in time, I've taken the opportunity to just, certain businesses I can now clearly see, because I'm my own client, what works and what doesn't work for me. And now I'm to the point where I don't even really need clients, because where I've transitioned to is allowing me to build my ultimate brand for myself for these other things, alternative income, and all kinds of things. People will always try to move you off of, even now, try to move you off of. So now I'm to the point where I don't even do other businesses without recommendations from other people I've done business with, successful business with. Why? Because there's a level of understanding and success with this person, and they don't want to mess that up, so they're going to recommend people they feel confident that that's not going to do. And that's been working for me as a business person. Like, seriously, like, that has helped tremendously. Outside of that, and it helps that I don't have to rely on that income for me to seriously move. But yeah, now we go back into the conversation of where I am now and what level of success. A level of success for me is really understanding and growing my business and being financially secured enough to do what I need to do. And it's just not all the generic. It is just a level of, you're going to have some personalities and things that you deal with in business, but ultimately understanding and dealing and talking and networking with the right people, because dealing with the other people that I've just mentioned is a emotional setback, if more than anything. Just emotional. I even had a person that told me doing a website, $100 was too much. And at that point in time, I have removed and not dealt with that person. They don't even have a website because they have no value where they are themselves. They're limited. So they don't see the investment. And if people don't see the investment in you, if that's where you want to go with that, that's part of my successful goal, that people will see that I'm an investment to what they're trying to do and not an expense. And that's another level, but highlighting that. You as a business person, just really write yourself a letter and you be your own client and see what you're telling them is really what is needed. So just to go back, we talked about just valuing yourself, understanding yourself, just 2, putting on the full armor of God of dealing with these things. 3, understanding, 3, just understanding who you are as a business person and not allowing people to pull you into their vision and take you off of your complete focus of your own business because they want you to do that. And just, 4, just really just understanding what that clearly means and understanding where you are as a business person and are the clients you're dealing with, potentially good for you. So those are the 4 elements that I'm just discussing now. And me doing more podcasts and having a conversation. And then even just opening up a service for help on social media. Charging, a little bit of money per month. Just going into the trends of what's successful today and just keeping your eyes open for that. So just to really talk about some things I'll talk about on the next podcast, the ever-changing brand and brand colors and reinventing yourself and going what's there and going what's working. So that's the next podcast that we'll talk about. I'll talk about why I changed my logo. It was a really good logo. And I've changed my brand colors. And that was, 2 of my businesses I've changed. Well, actually all of my businesses I've changed logos, mid-form, and I'll tell you why in the next podcast. So this is Duchess Robinson. Thank you for listening.